Welcome to this final session, the final session of this conference. Before we start, I want to thank the sponsor that made this event possible.
I'm sorry, okay, your screen.
Is it working? Perfect.
Yes,
Perfect.
it's working. I have forgotten that this session is in English, and otherwise.
No worries.
Sorry.
My name is Porta. I'm a custom engineer at Microsoft, and today I'm here with my colleague Calcagni to talk about how to automate your Power BI reports deployment using Azure DevOps and GitHub Action. And once again, if you have any question, just pop up a tweet or a message, and we'll try to answer as soon as possible. So these are some examples of what is happening every 60 seconds on the internet, or at least before Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp went down. You might say, well, why should be interested in 46,000 Instagram posts or 452,000 Twitter posts? Well, the people here that are part of the business unit might be familiar with that. All these posts, tweets, and even swipes on Tinder are giving us information about users that you can use to improve your business. Just to give you an example, BitTitan, a company that provides business solution to help IT service provider run their business, wanted to sharpen their marketing and sales. They basically decided to use Twitter sentiment analysis and data visualization based on Power BI. And thanks to these tools, this service and tool, we were able to make their tweet reach 5 times as many people as before, attracting more customers. Another example is the Heathrow Airport. The airport is, for those who don't know, is considered the UK gateway to the world, and every day more than 200,000 people, at least before the pandemic, used to pass through it. In this case, they wanted to increase the customer satisfaction, and they achieved it by using real-time operational data coming from 75,000 airport workers to better organize the passenger movement through the airport, and basically they remove all the bottlenecks in the flow. But even in standard organization, we can see a constant stream of data flowing through the entire ecosystem. Capturing this data and taking advantage of them with applied intelligence will actually enable you to make better decisions and a transformative process. So you can think differently, you can create new experiences, new way of working, and then producing new outcomes. And once you've done all this, you start all over again in what we call the digital feedback loop. And this is how many organizations are transforming products, services, optimize operations, and empowering their employees. Companies that were able to do so notice a dramatically increase of productivity, estimated to be 430 billion in 2020, and also an increase of operational income by 8%. One tool that can actually help you to doing so is Power BI. But how does it actually work? First of all, you collect data from multiple sources, for example, SQL Server, Salesforce, and so on. Then you use Power BI Desktop to create custom visualization and models of this data. However, because Power BI Desktop is a client app, these reports are stored on your file system or a shared folder, so it might be difficult for you to share them within your organization. To make them available to other people, you actually need to publish them on Power BI service. And by doing so, not only you make them available to a broad audience, but also accessible from a multitude of devices, for example, mobile, apps, and even HoloLens. And this is a generic flow. First, you collect all your data and get a consolidated view across your business. Then you created the ad hoc analysis, live dashboard, and interactive reports that are easy to understand by a non-technical audience. And at the end, you distribute them on a web and across multiple devices. Now I'm going to share my screen. Let me see. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. Now, on my desktop, I have here a folder with several Power BI reports. As you can see here, this is one of them. these are all my data. I have here several graphs, but I have them locally. I have them on my local drive. Now I can publish them by clicking the publish button, but if you have many reports, might be time consuming. So we thought, why don't create integrate it with CI and CD, the CI/CD pipelines offered by Azure DevOps and GitHub. So I created a repository on GitHub here. Oops. That actually have a folder with, in this case, just one report, because I have for a test, basically, a report. And in Azure DevOps, I have here my pipeline. Why Azure DevOps? Because in this case, actually, I connected this GitHub repository to my Azure DevOps project. And here in pipelines, I have actually the pipeline that is stored on the code, the YAML code is stored on GitHub. Now, this is part of the flow, because Azure DevOps by default can talk to Power BI, because these are two different platforms. Even if they're both owned by Microsoft, they're different platforms. We need something more, because okay, this is my Power BI, is a service, is a platform, but I need the permission actually to make Azure DevOps or GitHub talk to Power BI service. And how can I achieve this? I can create this kind of communication by using Azure Active Directory app registration. In fact, here on Azure DevOps, on Azure, I created my app registration. If I go on app permissions, actually I can customize the permission of this particular app. And here, as you can see, I have Power BI service. And what I'm doing is I'm giving the permission of this to this app to perform this operation, like in this case, read and write dataset, reports, and workspaces. And also I created a secret. So by using the client ID and client secret and the tenant ID, I can uniquely identify this app, and I can basically perform the operation and basically defining the app API permissions. So in this case, I have this permission. I have this permission on the app that allow me to perform some operation on Power BI. How can I integrate it with Azure DevOps? In this demo, we are going to use an extension. You can find it on the marketplace. Basically, if you go on organization settings and extensions, and you click on browse marketplace and search for Power BI. Actually, it's one of the first Power BI action. There we go. This is the first one. This has been developed by Mike van der Gag, and to be honest, I used it in the past. It's very good. It's a very good extension that you can easily set up on your in your organization. So how does it work? If you go on organization settings, and in your project, in this case Azure DevOps Conf 2021, and in service connection. Now, in this case, I already set up the extension, but if I go on edit, I can show you exactly the configuration. As you can see, you have two different authentication methods, username and password, and a service principal. In a service principal, actually you have to insert the information that we have on your Azure ID. For example, the tenant ID, the client ID, and the client secret. Of course, the client secret in this case you can see, because otherwise you'll be able to start using my API. But by using this free information, actually what is happening is you're creating a service connection on your project that is going to be used by the task in your pipeline to basically authenticate your request on Power BI services. But in this case, it's going to publish your report on the workspace we're going to define. So if you go here on your pipelines, and actually, no, I'm going to show you exactly how it works. So I'm going to go back here. Now I have these reports like 2 and 3. I'm going to move them. This is basically my repository that I cloned from GitHub in the folder repos. In this case, I have just one report, so I'm going to publish two of my local reports on this folder. Try again. Number 2, yeah, try again. Yeah, because it's open, sorry. By pad, yep. Okay, let's leave number 2 there. So if I go here, now this is my Git repository. As you can see, it's defined by the .git hidden folder. If I open my terminal and I perform a push on that repository, desktop, and in this case, cd DevOps conf, git commit, add report. Now it's ready. In the first line, I staged the change, then I create a commit with the changes, and I'm gonna push this new report to the repository. If I go back, in this case, I'm pushing to GitHub. If I go back on GitHub, I can see that there is a new change happened a few seconds ago. Let me refresh. Add the report. I can see my new report here 30 seconds ago. And if I go back to Azure DevOps, which pipeline is connected to GitHub, and I refresh, I'll be able to see that my CI pipeline actually started. Now, if you go and see, and let's see what's actually doing. So if I open my pipeline, see that it's actually asked because it's using Microsoft hosted agent. I see that is asking Azure, hey, do you have a Windows machine available now? And Azure responds with the virtual machine with this specific characteristic. Now it's checking out the repository, but in this case contains only the pipeline and the reports that I just published. Now it's copying the file to a temporary folder. Is creating archiving the file, is compressing the file with the reports, and then it's publishing an artifact. Now, if I move in releases, now it didn't start because I didn't enable the continuous deployment. If I go on edit, I want to show you first what actually the steps. In this case, as you can see, there is collecting the latest artifact produced by the CI pipeline, and there is only one step in this case. But I can do it multiple times. I cannot just change the service connection. So if I open, I can see the two tasks in this release pipeline. The first one is extracting the file inside the published BI, the Power BI build that is inside the artifact. And then is publishing the content of this folder to a workspace. And you can see here there's a service connection that identifies the app that I configured on Azure Active Directory, that I registered on Azure Active Directory. So if I go back on releases and I click create a new release, what I'm actually doing is, first of all, is asking again, because I'm using Microsoft hosted agent, is asking Azure, hey, do you have a virtual machine available with this characteristic? In this case, I'm asking for Windows Server 2016 machine. We can see from the pipeline, but this is not important. Now, just matter of a few seconds. Okay, perfect. Azure, make this virtual machine available for my pipeline. Again, because it is a Microsoft hosted at the beginning, is completely empty. Is preparing the machine. Now is basically taking the artifact that I generated previously in the build pipeline, extracted the file. If I go in the logs, I can see that there were two files inside that. And next, now is a push basically checking if there is this particular report available on Power BI, if I already published it, and then is publishing the new version because I set the override parameter to true. Now the pipeline is finished. If I go back in my Power BI, and at the beginning was empty, if I refresh now, I'll be able to see my two reports. The first one is customer profitability and procedural analysis. And actually now they're available there on the cloud, and all the people that actually have access to Power BI services can enter it, can check the data, can make changes, and so on. So this process becomes very useful for example, if you have a lot of, for example, reports that you want to publish and want to avoid clicking on publish button on each single of them. So this is how how you can achieve this using Azure DevOps. And now I will leave the stage to my colleague that is going to show you how to perform this operation using GitHub Action.
All right, thanks, Ivan. So my name is Ian Victor. You can call me Ian, and I will share the screen now so that we may start. So you should be able to see my screen now. And basically, we want to implement our CDCI solution strategy, rather, and we want to make it instead of by using DevOps in the extension created by colleague Mike van der Gag. Sorry for butchering the name. It's Dutch, and unfortunately, I'm not so fluent, but I hope I meant no disrespect. But basically, we want to have the equivalent of the DevOps extension that my colleague just used to automate the publishing of the Power BI reports that we can see over here. So we have the exact same reports, or well, actually, this is a forked repository from my colleagues. So these are another set of reports, but let's assume that are our reports that we actually want to publish automatically through pipelining by using GitHub Action workflows. And we want to make sure that these reports, whenever a commit, whenever a change occurs inside the repo, we want to make sure that these reports over here are automatically published in our Power BI workspace. So to do such task, we would need to refer to the equivalent of the extension, which is called from here Power BI Actions. This is the actual extension from the colleague. And basically, we want to have the equivalent of that extension in the form of a Power BI, of a GitHub Action workflow. So unfortunately, there is no workflow available from colleague Mike yet. So basically what we did was create a new one. And this is how we did it. Basically, we created the action, and now creating actions on GitHub is actually very, very easy. You just have to create a YAML file, and this is the YAML file that we have created. And basically, this is if you're lucky, by using your actions, you are able to refer to already existing actions that do the exact same job. But in this case, I thought we might take a look at how it was implemented. And as you can see, it is very, very easy to create an action which can be referred upon by other actions. And I'll show you how it is done. Basically, we want to create the keyword workflow call for our trigger. So the on keyword represents triggers, and workflow call means that it is a trigger that is launched, that is run by another workflow. So what we do is basically we create a set of inputs. In this case, we want to specify our path. Of course, it will be the reports folder, which is the one from the repository that I was showing you before. And we want to specify the workspace name, in this case, the Power BI workspace. And we have some secrets to include. We have our client ID, which is not necessarily a secret, but we could have made it an input just as well, but just for demonstration purposes, we made it a secret. Of course, the client secret and the tenant ID of our Azure tenant. Basically, when we refer to client ID and secret, we are actually referring to the client ID and secret from the app registration that my colleague Ivan has configured, that is basically the cloud app equivalent of our Power BI workspace. So we're referring to the exact same credential from the app registration from the previous part of the demo, the one with the DevOps automation. So the job is really simple. It is a container job. It is a container action in this case, which means that it is run on board of a container. In this case, it runs on Windows latest. Any Windows server would do, but it must be in this case it must be an operating system hosting a Windows kernel, because we're actually calling the native PowerShell over here. We're calling the native PowerShell, shell, which basically will allow us to run this specific task, which is present in our repo from the colleague. And basically, we are able. I will show you right away what I mean. I will be able to call the inner workings of the DevOps extension from the colleague, the Power BI Actions extension, and this is how it works. Basically, it will take some inputs, and basically it will just run by using the following. I will show you by using the following modules from here. Yes. Basically, by using these following modules, it will be able to publish automatically our Power BI reports on our workspace. And basically, this is the reason why we actually need native PowerShell scripting, because we actually want to be able to harness what is containing those modules, which are PowerShell 5.1 modules, so they are not compatible with PowerShell core. So this is the reason why. But anyway, basically what we want to do is to refer to our variables that are defined in our workflow call. So what we define here in our workflow call under inputs and secrets, we want to make sure that we define it when we call the script. So we call secrets from here, and we call the various inputs and some other hard-coded information, in this case, which is pertaining to the actual extension. Now, this might be a little bit too complicated to grasp, and because we're actually delving deep into PowerShell scripting, but no worries, this has been done just because there was no GitHub Actions counterpart to the actual Power BI extension. So if you do not want to reinvent the wheel and you want to just make use of such extension, you can just access our repositories, our respective repositories, and you will find the GitHub Action workflow ready to go, and you can just take inspiration from there. Now, let us talk about the actual workflow, which is represented by this YAML file, main.yaml. And basically, this workflow is the actual workflow that will trigger the publishing of Power BI reports whenever a commit occurs in our repository. So basically, this is, again, a keyword for triggering, and we want to be triggered. We want the event to be triggered whenever a commit occurs, or rather a push event occurs in our main branch, which is, of course, the branch that we're taking a look at right now. And basically, we want to refer, like this, with the keyword uses, we want to refer to the equivalent of the DevOps extension. And this is how you do it. This is the referral. And we want to pass every single parameter that is was represented from workflow call from the other YAML file. So there were 2 inputs and 3 secrets, and sure enough, we're passing 2 inputs and 3 secrets just as well. Now, these secrets are basically created in such a way that when we use GitHub's facilities, they will be hidden whenever they are referenced inside the actual scripting. So we do not have to worry about log files showing our secrets. It is all handled automatically. As you can see right here, we click on settings, we click on secrets, and we can define our new secrets from here. These are the secrets that I am using. You can reference them as shown before. And if you want new ones, you can just click on new repository secret, and that will do the trick. So let us assume now, I will show you once again the syntax. As you can see, this is the syntax, secrets dot, and then the name of the secret. But basically, let us assume that now we have a new report coming in our folder, which will trigger a commit. Now, I do not have a report available, but we can just create any file whatsoever, does not matter. Any commit will do, any commit whatsoever. So basically, let us assume that we have added another report. This triggers a commit, which in turn will trigger our GitHub action workflow. So if we open it, we can see that from here, this is the actual running of the action, and this is the script that we have referenced before from the actual wrapper, the GitHub action wrapper of the DevOps extension. And as you can see, it was able to replicate all reports in our workspace. So basically, if we go here, we can see that now we have just updated in my local time zone, but you can take my word for it. We have just updated our workspace with all the reports from our repository. And that actually you cannot see it because I've not shared it. My apologies, but I will share right away. Let me just share it now. Let's see. I will just share the screen instead. It's easier to do this instead. So basically, as you can see, this is my, or rather our Power BI workspace. And as you can see, it has been automatically uploaded with all the information that was present in the reports folder that we have specified in our GitHub action workflow. So this is it for the GitHub demonstration. And basically, we have some time for questions. So if you're interested, if you want to ask some deep dive questions about what we've just seen you so far, please feel free to do so.
Sorry, we have a little problem.
No worries.
Ivan?
Yes.
Jan?
Yes, we are still here.
I cannot see your desktop.
Yes, right away.
I think that your Teams is dead. No, it's not dead because because I can hear you, but your screen connection is dead.
My apologies. I will share right away the screen unless Ivan wants to share it instead, since you have you have your control plane over DevOps.
We have been the demos. We're waiting just if you have any question, want to know more about, for example, how Power BI, how we met actually the extension connected to Power BI, we can talk about that, or if you prefer talking about, for example, the extension itself or the app registration that you use to connect to Azure, we can talk about. I mean, there is a lot. If you have any question, just feel free to ask. We are here for you. And yeah.
In the meanwhile, I will share my screen, or rather the browser screen, which should do the trick like this. Okay.
Okay. Just a second. Wow. You are online. Jan?
Yes.
I'll share.
Yes.
Now I share your screen.
Yes, I am sharing the screen right now. So actually, the demo is over. So you can take my screen as a reference if you wish to ask any questions. Otherwise, I will just remove the screen. And if there are actually any questions available, we're free to answer them in the remaining time. If you're curious, if you want to deep dive, into certain aspects of the demo, we are available for that.
Now there weren't any question. If the participant have some question, can use Teams for do it for make some question, and but for now there weren't questions.
Okay.
All right then. So yeah. We can wait a couple minutes if anyone is interested in asking something, or maybe I can just show the YAML files from the GitHub Actions. As before, we can deep dive on the keywords behind them. We can take a look at how we actually mapped our GitHub Action workflow solution to the extension from the DevOps solution from Mike, our colleague Mike. So if you want, we can spend a couple minutes. And in the meanwhile, if there are any questions, we're totally free to address them together. So let us go back to ci.yaml. Basically, this is the wrapper that we have created for our GitHub Actions demo, and this wrapper is actually a wrapper for the Power BI Actions extension from Mike. And this is basically how it works. Basically, it just straight up runs this task, which is locally contained in our repository. So this github/runtask.ps1, you can find it over here. That's it. So this is the implementation. Basically, it is just a wrapper that imports the modules, takes the inputs, and basically troubleshoots them. It basically will print if there are any improper inputting to when it comes to calling the actual script, and there will be some variable cleanup going on, and then the appropriate commandlets associated to the module under the actual DevOps extension. The appropriate commandlet will be called. In this case, this is the commandlet that it will be called, but we do not want to actually modify anything from the extension. We want to wrap it. We want to make sure that the extension is made in such a way that we are not tampering with the creation from Mike, and we are able to basically not have to customize the actual extension every single time, but we just take it as is, and no matter how patched it becomes, it will still be available and usable by our GitHub Actions. So we want to have an abstraction layer above the actual implementation of the extension. So this is the way we did it again. So by running this task, now we're running this task, we need to make sure of the following. We need to make sure that the actual workflow that we have created points to the exact pathing that we have specified right here. So basically, even though we are running container actions, these container actions are made in such a way that you can refer to the actual pathing locally instead of globally, so that you are always sure that the top right pathing, let's say the current directory pathing of the container action, will always be the name of the repository, this one. So we can represent it through a dot. I will show you what I mean right away. Basically, this is how you do it. You have your path, and you basically specify the root point of the repository like this, and then you just specify the folder. What's going on? Okay, so you just specify the folder, and of course the folder is mapped to this one. So in this case, we have created one action specifying one folder, which is the reports folder, and anytime a commit occurs in this folder, an action will be triggered. But basically what we can do, we can create multiple actions spawning from the same action, that is the wrapper of the extension from DevOps, which is this one. This is the extension from DevOps that is being wrapped into an action, and we can create multiple actions by specifying multiple folders, so that we can have some kind of versioning control, where maybe we want to publish just reports. There are, for example, our, let's say, non-production reports. So they may be our, let's say, test reports, or they may be our actual production reports. And we can specify multiple actions, and we can just do the following. On each action, we just specify the folder. And by specifying the folder, we are able to actually specifying the different workspace names. Again, this is the name of the Power BI workspace. By specifying different paths and different workspaces, you can discriminate between production and non-production or testing. So this is the trick. So you can create multiple workflows like this. And by doing this, you can make sure that your CI/CD infrastructure has a tight distinction between production and testing. So we have a minute or so left. I will stop sharing the screen now. Are there any questions, any doubts, or you want to deep dive into anything? We have a couple minutes, I think.
Okay. Sorry, I have a little trouble.
Yeah, no worries.
No worries.
No question,
it's okay.
Can wrap it up.
Yeah. Sorry?
We can wrap up the question. The session.
Yes, there weren't any question for the session, and
all right. I would like to thank you and anyone listening to us right now. I hope you liked the presentation. I'm very glad if you found it useful. Thank you and grazie.
Grazie.
And
Thank you,
see
everybody.
soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.